So welcome back to the Fender Jazz Bass build. The fact you're here on part two must mean that part one wasn't too bad. So thank you for coming back. So what was part one? Part one really was just doing a tiny bit of woodwork, which was to put a shim in the neck pocket to make the neck fit. And then lots and lots and lots of sanding, priming, painting, lacquering, polishing. Lots and lots and lots and lots of that. I made that bit mercifully short in the last video, and there's plenty of better places you can look for tips on how to do it, which is basically what I did. I made loads of mistakes and kept doing more research as I went along. And the best one I found was a guy called Chris from Driftwood Guitars, and he did a video for StewMac StewMac parts, not tools. And the great thing about his was he kept showing you what to do when you've mucked up and how to go back a stage to fix it. So I'd recommend that for a tutorial on painting, not mine. So hopefully sped up and easy to watch. So what's in part two? Well, part two really is assembly. We're going to add all the components, obviously the neck, pickups, scratch plates, bridge, and the machine heads, and we'll crack on with that. So the first job then is to line the control cavity and the front pickup cavity with copper. So that will shield it, electronically shield it. Also, I need to do the back of the scratch plate. Now the scratch plate might be this scratch plate, or it might be this scratch plate. Now the black one's a bit more traditional. The whiter one's a bit more kind of, I don't know, modern, different? I don't know. I can't decide which one to do, but whichever one I do, because they're plastic, I'll need to put copper on the back. Now the control cavity cover is actually conductive itself, so that doesn't need to be shielded. That'll be part of the shield. So first part then, let's get shielding. So most important thing, if you're buying this kind of copper tape, what you really need is to buy one with adhesive, with conductive adhesive, because if not, then the adhesive itself will insulate the joins between not a great start. So the adhesive can insulate the joins, which you don't want. So I'm going to start coming around here. But I'll make sure I've not missed any parts there. Yeah, so the most important thing is it's functional. Now there's a hole coming back here through from the bridge, cavity under the bridge, and that's for a ground wire. So I think what I'm going to do is tape over it. Sorry, I don't see that there. So there's one there coming from the bridge and this one coming from the bridge pickup. So I think what I'll do is just tape over the holes and then puncture through to poke the wires through afterwards. So this is the front pickup, which is going to be under the pick guard, but on a jazz bass the rear pickup isn't. So let's just So the next thing I want to do with the copper is to make sure that it's grounded up to and behind the scratch plate where the screw goes in, and we'll pinch it down. So in order to position the scratch plate, what I want to do now is put the neck on so that I can position the scratch plate to be in the right place. So, neck. So the neck is here, and obviously remember from the first video we put that extra piece of veneer, walnut veneer in there actually, to create that nice fit, which that is. So now I need to screw it on. So just before I do that, I'm just going to check that the screw holes all line up. So the way I'm going to do that is if I just put that through there, I can tell that obviously that's going into the neck, so the depth allows the screw. I did try and find, because we're using black hardware on everything, I did try and find a black neck plate, but I couldn't find a black neck plate anywhere, unfortunately. So chrome it will be. So that is the neck plate screwed on, and that will give me the line up then for the scratch plate. So it looks as if on the control plate the jack socket's 10mm and the pot holes are 8mm, but on here it looks as though everything kind of needs to be 10mm. So what I've got is a little gizmo here to widen out the hole and basically convert that from 8 to 10. I'll go and do that on the pillar drill, but just before I do that, put some masking tape over that control plate, and what that will mean is that I don't scratch it on the plate of the pillar drill. So just for protection then, we'll put some masking tape over the control plate like that. So off to the pillar drill. So that hole opener upper doesn't seem quite man enough for the job, so we'll try a HSS bit instead. Okay. So we'll check the fit of the pots onto the control plate. Put those washers on first. And this way around. There we go. Lovely. So washers and nut. Cool. There we go. So having done that, that means I can work out where that's going to sit and where one or the other of the two scratch plates is going to sit. I think I'm favouring this one, to be honest, but do leave a note in the comments if you think I've made a mistake. And just want to check that everything's correct, that the pickup cavity fits properly. And from there, what I can now do is using a bradawl, which I need to go and find because I don't know where I've put it. Sorry. Using a bradawl. From there, what I can do is mark where each of the screw holes is going to be. So, and last one. There. So, that is all our screw hole positions marked. So what that means, and so I took all the steps back for, is that I can then run tape to these screw holes here, making sure that there's a definite earth as the scratch plates pinch down. So with the earth tape, sorry, shielding tape, not earth tape, I can put that across just check that's not going to be seen, that's fine. And then to the next one, I might just put a little hole into that. Check that one's covered. Check again. Yeah, I've come slightly. Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. So time to put some copper on the back of the scratch plate. So I shall work away at this. I've got a funny feeling when I go to the edit, I might be speeding this bit up for you. So I keep coming up with things that I must just do first before I do the next thing. and one of the things I need to do before I start doing the wiring is to run an earth wire from the bridge. If I'm going to run that earth wire from the bridge, I need to put the bridge there. So here's my earth wire, here's my bridge, and there's a hole that's been drilled from this little cavity here through to here. So using using a bamboo skewer, if I poke through from there, and I can feel that coming out through, puncturing through that copper on the other side, hopefully what I can then do is run this wire through there, yeah, and that will come out in the cavity there. So just a piece on the end. Now I did check earlier to make sure that the coating on the bridge doesn't cause it to not be conductive, and you can see you've got continuity through there. What I might do, just for peace of mind, is just put a little bit of copper just to hold that down, and in doing so, then if it's, well, hopefully it won't slip, but if you remember, the adhesive is conductive and the copper is obviously conductive. So let's fit the bridge there, screws that came with the bridge. So the bridge is a Kluson high mass bridge. So I know Fender do a high mass bridge, very similar style to each other. Ooh. Now, need to keep that safe. That's the Allen key for adjusting the bridge once it's all strung up and everything. Let's screw the bridge on. So the bridge there. At the end of the wire there. There we go. So we've got a perfect ground to the bridge. Excellent. So the next thing then is to wire it all together. How exciting! So in the pickup kit, I didn't get springs like you normally expect to see. We've got these sort of neoprene kind of pad things, which sort of act like a spring with a self-adhesive back. So I'm guessing what Fender would like me to do with them is to stick one in there, and then the other one in there. Okay, now to wire the pickups up, these are Fender noiseless pickups, and they've come with a plug, and that plug, I'm assuming, if you in the Fender factory, plugs simply into something that somebody else has manufactured on the neighbouring production line. But for us, unfortunately, we can't use that, and we need to feed those wires through. So if we use the handy skewer again, there's a hole coming through here somewhere, if I can find it. It comes through from that control cavity to the pickup cavity, and I'm hoping that I can just slide the wires through there. There we go. Finally, that's the two wires through to the bridge pickup. So that's like that, and that's going to obviously screw down and squidge that pad down when the time comes. So these two wires here, if we just very fine. So the black is the ground, and that links up with the bridge wire. So I just wind those two together. And the white is the positive side. Now this particular set of pots has come, as you saw, pre-made, pre-soldered together, but instead of having to solder these wires on this particular design, they've got screw terminals, which for somebody who is as rubbish at soldering as me, is probably no bad thing at all. So this is the positive wire. You can see this is the one that joins to the middle terminal of the pot. So that one's into there. If I can just hold that still. And then just use the screw terminal. And then the wire from the bridge, and the ground side of the pickup goes into that one. Can hold that better while I do that up. So that is the first pickup and the bridge wired in. So then the second pickup, same applies. Need to cut off the terminals. Oops. And we need to poke through into the control cavity. So just open that up with our trusty bamboo skewer, and we'll see if we can feed those wires through. Hopefully easier than last time, but who knows. Just need to pop out from underneath. There we go. Grab those, and then gently through. Okay, so it's going to be around that way. So we need to trim these up and wire them into the terminal block. There. So oops. And the black wire. So put the black wire onto the earth side. Yep. So I'm probably the wrong way around for the camera now. And then red wire. Again, apologies if that's the wrong way around for the camera. And I have to say, I'm glad I'm not soldering these. I've always had very limited and mixed results with my soldering. So hopefully this will be a bit more successful. So now then we can fit the control plate and the scratch plate, I bought this little box of screws actually from Amazon, cheap as chips it was, but I wasn't sure which of the components was going to come with screws and which ones weren't. So I thought if I just have that, then I'll have a few get me out of jail free cards. And in actual fact, the scratch plates came with chrome screws, so I'm pleased I did it, because you can have black screws on the scratch plate, which is great. And there we go, that is the last one there. So control plate and scratch plate fitted. So the next thing we need to do is to fit the machine heads, and I've gone for Schaller machine heads as a bit of an upgrade. So they come in from the back, but they have a bush, and unfortunately Mr. Schaller and Mr. Fender have got a different idea about what the right size is. So somehow I need to make that hole smaller, or indeed that bush bigger. And I reckon making the bush bigger would be a lot easier than making the hole smaller. So just a simple fix. Just going to put a few wraps of, this is just insulation tape. I'm not particularly precious about it. It's the first thing that came to hand, and it's going to be completely hidden. But if I do about 3 or 4 turns of that, then hopefully what will happen then is the bush will fit snugly in the hole and line up the machine head properly on the back. So if we cut that off there, and then just trim that extra bit off. It's not needed. Yeah, I can't really see a simpler way of doing it. So hopefully that will work well. Just try and tidy up that extra bit that's sticking out. Something like that, and then push that into there. Lovely snug fit, and Blue Peter style, here's 3 that I prepared earlier. So lovely snug fit for the bushes. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Schaller and Mr. Fender also have different ideas about exactly where the screws for the machine heads should go. So, in actual fact, the 2 screws on this side, the 2 screw holes are completely covered over. But these ones, I don't know if you can see it well on the camera or not. If I can put that there, they kind of just don't quite line up. So what I've decided is, rather than just trying to sort of force those at a funny angle, what I'm going to do is just fill the 2 holes on that side each time. Just going to use little bits of cocktail stick, and I'll glue them in. And the idea simply is, as I drill new holes, or maybe just braddle new holes, what I don't want to do is to kind of split into the other hole. So a few little pegs there. Get some wood glue. And get the top off. Put the wood glue there, and we're just going to dip the tips there into that wood glue and poke them into the hole. And then once they're set, I can just trim them off. So, like that. One there. And that one there. So what we'll do is we'll just let those set, then we can trim them off, and hopefully any kind of cosmetic will be just behind the plate of the machine head, so won't be an issue. So now the glue's drying, I just take off those little bits of excess there. I'm just using a chisel. But I'm trying to work from where it will be behind the plate. So if I make any marks into the lacquer at all, that'll be hidden behind the plate of the machine head. And yeah, it seems to be working absolutely fine. Yep. Yeah, I'm happy with that method. Now, slightly annoyingly, Schaller supplied 14 screws, not 16 for the machine heads, which is just one of those things, but because I bought the extra handy little kit from Amazon, with all the bits you could possibly need in a situation like this, I've got enough matching screws to be able to use those ones instead. So the glue's dried on those little cocktail stick pegs. And obviously they're flush now. So what we can do is put the machine head in, and as a kind of a reference, I can just see the edge of the holes that we've just filled in. So using the bradawl, just get that hole started. And then we can screw them in. Very fiddly little screws. But if we hadn't put that little cocktail stick peg in, what will be happening now is that screw would just be trying to slip across and fall into the other hole. So definitely the right thing to have done. Okay, so that's pretty good. Happy with that. I'm just going to do the other three now, and luckily it's not a 12-string guitar. And yeah, I'll see you in a mo. So the next job is to put the strings on, but there's one of those. Just before we do the next job, we need to just do this first jobs, which is conditioning the fretboard. So this is lemon oil fretboard conditioner. So the fretboard is made of something, a wood called Pau Ferro, don't know. So generally speaking, Fender's fretboards were made of rosewood. But rosewood is a wood that is kind of a bit more scarce than it was before, and so Pau Ferro is the kind of substitute for that, I suppose. So basically, what you do, as you can see it getting darker already, what you do is you just literally rub it in and buff it off. And what this does is kind of lubricates and oils the fretboard. And gives it a lovely kind of sheen in the process as well. So nothing more complicated than that. Rub it in, buff it off. I might give that just one more coat before I buff it off. And funny enough, it starts to look exactly like rosewood. There we go. And we just buff that off with another clean one. That's it. Nothing more complicated than that. So then, the next thing, how exciting, is the strings. And seeing as we've gone for the kind of black hardware, you know, black machines, black bridge, black everything, also gone for Black Beauty strings, so DR Black Beauties. Now my preference is 45105, what that means is the lower E string is 105. Now these are coated, so I need to make sure that as I put them through, I don't kind of scrape them too much and take the coating off the strings, but just feed that through there. Now, what's basically going to happen here is that the nut hasn't been prepared at the factory, simply because nobody at the factory would know what gauge of string you're gonna use. So those need to be cut in, which I will do. That's going to be in the setup in the third video. But for the moment, what we're going to do is cut the string off, and my preference is to go really to the last post there, which is the G string post. Cut that off there, drop that in, and then we're going to wind it in from there. So right, wrap round, oops, here we go, let's try that again. Poke it in the string post, and then wrap it round once, and then take the tension up here. So, and I've got a funny feeling yet again, and this is going to be one of those ones that gets sped up in the edit for you. What I do like to do though is to make sure that the string goes under the last loop each time. And what that does, it keeps a better string break angle over the nut. So let me just tighten that up, making sure that that goes under the last one each time. String, and then we go with the A string, and the same applies. So we're going to cut it off about what would be sort of 3 or 4 posts past where it is. Okay, so go. Give it a one wrap first, and make sure that's going underneath. Now what we're going to do, once we've got all the strings on, one of the jobs we've got to do is to put the string tree on here, which is going to keep the string break angle for the 2 higher strings. But rather than putting that on first, I'm going to use the lineup of the strings to help me decide where it goes. So the next job then is to fit the string tree. So what I've obviously done is put the strings on first before trying to decide exactly where this goes. Now, I've been around the house, I've taken a photo of every headstock of every bass I can find, and the position is completely different on every single one. So I think probably there's a bit of personal choice to it. and I think probably I'll go somewhere near the A string tuner, but not interfere with the Fender logo there. So what I'm going to do is just detune the G and the D string slightly, just take the tension out so that I can work out where that's going to go. So I think somewhere about there. Doesn't seem to be an exact science to it. So that makes it about there. Which then allows me to put this in here. So the next job is to fit the knobs, so just make sure everything is turned fully clockwise. Now I've played a jazz bass for years, but I never realised, I always thought that the pots were small, medium, large, but they're not. They're small, large, large. Who knew? Well, not me, obviously. Right, so. Hopefully you appreciate the dogs entertaining you in the background. There you go. So small, large, large pots. There you go. So the very last part of the build then is to fit the strap buttons. So I've gone for these ones, which are Fender Infinity locks, and essentially it's a two-part lock. One part one part fixes to the strap and one part fixes to the guitar, and they're locked together. So simply unscrew that into there. Like that, and then one for the other side. Just undo that. And then we've got one to screw into there. So that's the end of part 2. We have assembled the bass. So it's all together, it's all complete, everything's on. Obviously it needs to be set up. So part 3 is going to be the setup, where we're going to do the neck relief, the intonation, the action, the bridge setup, and make it beautifully playable. So thank you for watching.